Hey guys, it's 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds, and here we are. And welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your sensei Al Bob, yours truly, your griot. Good day, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome aboard to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. And don't believe a word I say. This show is not for children. It is not for morons. It is not for folk who can't think outside the box. It's not for those who can't suspend their disbelief, right? Those who are tragically welded to their belief structures aren't going to quite get this show. Hey there, how you doing, my good puppy? Hello, number two. AI and somebody else who just left. Anyway, so today's show is who the frack is in charge, Is it Carrot Head? Oh, come on. When I saw him come down the escalator with, the entourage behind him, and he went into, dissing everything that's American with the concept of making it great again. Basically, I knew he was going to be our next president, right? Because he was as synthetic as Obama was with hope and whatever he was selling, hope and change, right? All we got was loose change, spare change, few nickels, and it's pretty much been the same corporate oligarchy TV show of Heckle and Jekyll since Jack was whacked, Now, we can't start year zero with Jack being whacked. No. We have to go pretty much back to George Washington. Year zero and the world being whack and a lie and the media's the message was with George Washington. Honest George. Honest George was as honest as honest George W. I think actually George W. was more honest. And what's truly amazing is that Carrot Head, he lies so much, he comes all the way around to the truth. Everything he says is kind of, oh, this is just a cold. Well, he's kind of right, except that it's an engineered pandemic that has three strains, A, B, and C. A is you just kind of get the sniffles. B, if you have a compromised immune system, you are deader than a doornail. If you're old, you got already pre-existing, the insurance guys didn't want those people with pre-existing conditions. So, hey, this pandemic is perfect. You just wipe them out, And, Carrot Head was told about this back in September of 2019, And, people say, oh, he doesn't, if it's not in a cartoon form, if he doesn't have crayons on it. No. Carrot Head is the exact character that his corporate, paymasters, he was prepared for this. He is such a failure that he was destined to be the last president of this cartoon show. I don't know if we ever had a president. Because anytime anyone tried to stand up, they got knocked off. I mean, there were a couple of presidents who didn't last more than a couple of weeks, So I don't even know why anyone would want that job, Me, I just like being the character actor, I'm happy to be, and the dude, the great Lebowski, that guy Bridges, he plays a character actor as the hero, and that's kind of me. I'm the character actor, And who was probably the in the Great Lebowski? Come on, anybody out there want to give their opinion on who truly was the raison d'etre of the existential plot of the Great Lebowski? It wasn't the dude, So of his bowling cohorts, um, who was it? Is the hero the big guy, or the little guy who dies, who was, up until the time he died, people just kept telling him to shut the frack up, moron. He was the hero because even though he was in the lowest position in the crew, he always stood up, whereas the others, not really. The dude was just the dude. He didn't have a brain cell between his ears, and the big guy, he was the noble character. He was like the cowardly lion. The cowardly lion. You know, bravery isn't something that you always have. It's something that you step up to do. You look around, no one else is going to take care of it. You step into it, right? And that was the cowardly lion, because up until the moment he had to, overcome his fear because no one else could take care of the problem, he didn't need to be the hero. When it when it really counted, he stepped up, right? Same thing with the Scarecrow. He always had the right idea. He was always had his head on the swivel. He was always seeing what was going on. He was the smartest one, right? But he said, "Oh, I just got stuffing for brains." No, he had his intuition. So he didn't let his ego, the squirrel in his head, get the better of him. I mean, who was of that, cadre, Dorothy, the lion, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, who was the real hero? Toto, because he was smart enough to go over and pull the curtain back, So I'm Toto. I'm that little cute dog. I'm Toto. So it's 8 minutes and 42 seconds. So who the Frack's in charge, right? Surely it's not Carrot Head, right? Because, he was just like Ronnie Reagan. Ronnie Reagan, before he got, he was an actor who wanted to be president, right? So when GE said, "Hey, we want you to, we've seen what you're doing on the 20T Mule Borax, we want you to be our presenter for GE Playhouse." That's when he got started to be president. Same thing happened with, who owned NBC, but GE, number one military industrial complex. They make everything from nuclear weapons to toaster ovens, an entity that was put together by J.P. Morgan and Mr. Rockefeller and Mr. Rothschild. Right? So, NBC, owned by GE, puts Donnie on the TV as the apprentice. Well, who was the apprentice? Donnie was the apprentice. Carrot Head. He was the apprentice. I mean, that show was there for him to work out being president. And all he had to do, you know, Carrot Head knew zip about government. He hadn't been thinking about, who, what, or where, how to run a government. No. What he was really good at was stirring people up, telling them stuff that was irrelevant, but they wanted to hear it because they were pissed off. And they keep voting for somebody like Obama, and it's like Charlie Brown. Every president we've had has been like Lucy. Charlie goes to kick the football, and Lucy, the president, whoever is in charge, because they're not in charge. And the same warmongers just keep marching on. And, a good example is Bernie. What a pussy. And excuse me, ladies, I'm not being, sexist or, any of the above. But Bernie, he doesn't even have ovaries, if you want to really see someone who is strong, courageous, is someone who brings, life into this world. Somebody who's got ovaries, Guys who just have testes, are like expendable, come on. And that's why they're put, in the irrelevant positions of seeming to be in charge, because they're irrelevant, they're expendable. Our governments are irrelevant, right? And so because we are a corporate state, we are state capitalism. We are a, Bolshevik capitalist oligarchy. We are communism, corporate communism. I mean, look, this thing just occurred. Who got the $7 trillion? Corporations. The people got $60 billion chump change, and good luck to see if anyone gets a check. And the small businesses, this has been put in to wipe them out. No one's going to, even if you have a small business, you're going to be owned by mega corporation, the umbrella corporation, That's everything, That movie Resident Evil, it wasn't, the virus that was the Resident Evil, no, or the monsters that it genetically mutated. No, it was a corporate structure of the umbrella corporation that was bringing you your Frosted Flakes and your Twinkies and your TV show that you really just need to watch. So that's where we're at. In 13 minutes, there we go. That's who the Frack's in charge, right? And if you want to blame anybody, it's not the Chinese, it's not the commies, it's not the gays, it's yourself. You, yourself, and you. Because you have just sat around on the couch, just like the Couch King. Boy, that, Mr. Seven and the Couch King and Yo-Yo, I've started a new novel called Soul Body Dysmorphia. That's just a working name. I'll figure out a better one. But it's going to be a character, who's, got these multiple personalities. Right now, back in the day, they used to call it multiple personalities. Now I think it's called personality integration dysmorphia disorder or something really, wonky like that. But, so those are the first three characters. And if Yo-Yo, Mr. Seven, or I love Count Sofa King, whoever this person is, that's why I let Sofa King hang, because I knew it was the same person. I could just energetically say, well, there he is again. Now, I could have bopped him off right at the beginning, but I didn't. Same with, Mr. Seven, when he came on saying, oh, we're a large corporation and we want to, support you. Well, if you want to support me, and I said that right off the bat, well, why don't you put some money in my PayPal account, you know? And then they said that they, donated 2,500 to the starving Americans, on the name of pimple penis, it's like, really? Okay. So my new novel I've been working on is, you know, it's, and the guy will be a gal. I mean, it's gonna have every, um, it's gonna have the kitchen sink in it, meaning the individual is going to be not only, spiritually tested, but it's going to, won't even know what gender it is, what species it is. We think of it's a slug, being, a child of, um, you know, folks who were like, the archetypical American of the 20th century is a baby boomer whose parents were Italian and Irish, right? And might have a little people of color in there too, but that's like the skeleton in the closet. And the child is a useless piece of protoplasm because his parents were tested. If they're old enough, they were in World War II or Korea or Vietnam. If not, they were Xers, and they, rose to the occasion to either save whatever they thought they were saving, or they made a quagmire amount of money, right? And a fecal cesspool of money, right? And in America, it wasn't really tough. All you had to do was ignore what was going on and pick something that you like to do and just do that, and you can make money. Work for a corporation, have a business, do real estate, have a restaurant, do any of those things, right? But '08 was the heralding call that you were fracked. If you weren't, looking for a higher calling than what you had been doing for the last 20 years, you were fracked. I mean, if you tried to go back to the old normal, I mean, after 9/11, there was no old normal. And, after, Desert Storm, there was no new old normal. After, what was it that, Ronnie did, Iran Contra, and these are all little plateaus, as David Icke calls it, and he probably ripped it off of somebody else. The totalitarian two-step, action, problem, action, solution, right? You want to get to fascism. How do you get there? You make a problem over here, and you get the solution. The solution takes you to fascism. So that's what the Nazis did. They called them Jewish people, right? But not just anybody who was in their way. If you were a socialist, you were communist. If you were a gypsy, if you were any one of those and Jewish, it was like forget about it, because most of the Jews, because they couldn't hold position, had a certain level of of fluidity, stuff, and they had positions like, so they could be doctors, they could be professors, they could be educators, they could be writers, playwrights, musicians, creative folk, but they couldn't be politicians. They couldn't be kings. They couldn't be, judges. They couldn't be any of those things, right? And so they were the creative mind. And so the thing that the fascist wants to get rid of, right off the bat, is the creative mind, right? And all those other things I mentioned, gypsies and socialists and communists, those are creative minds. The socialists and communists are fine, and within the Marxian point of view, if you start off, here is capitalism, it's obviously ripping you off, right? If you are labor. So labor says, okay, we want to, have something that protects us, a union or, social democracy or something. And once that becomes institutionalized, that's when you get the Communist Party. That's when you get, the CCP, you know, Chinese Communist Party. Look what they brought us, this plandemic or scamdemic. That's another one. And the problem with characters like that, their minds are so constricted by their little belief structure that they can't think creatively. So they said, oh, well, we're going to unleash this, unleash the Kraken. Well, without thinking, well, if we do that, we're screwed. And the CCP is the first to go. Just like Russia, it unleashed the Kraken a number of times, and basically it was the end of them. And their last, unleashing the Kraken was going into Afghanistan, which, pretty much every historian, I mean, people have been trying to invade and conquer Afghanistan, for the last 1,200 years, and it's always gone poorly. The Greeks, the Romans, the English, the Spanish, you name it, whoever went in there thinking that their technology could wash these guys are just running. It's like the Vietnamese, we thought these guys just wear, straw hats and run around in bedroom slippers. We can kick their butt. Oops, sorry, didn't happen. So that's who's in charge. Well, it's the guy behind that hidden eye there, right? And who is that guy? Well, first of all, it's not a guy, right? First of all, it's not even a human. It's not a Homo sapien sapien, because I can't even tell you what human is. No one seems to. Indigenous people do a pretty good job because it's very interesting. You go live with indigenous folk and you hang with them long enough to appreciate their culture and start to learn their language, and you realize their tribal name represents the human being, the character of the Aboriginal, savage in the first person, the artist, right, who needs to express himself or herself. That's the indigenous person. That's the human being. Because once you stop doing, and the only way you can express yourself is within the construct of love's co-creation. There's 5 of you guys there. Some of you, let's see, if this even works. Yep, see, the live chat does work. There's 5 of you can chat away. But until you do, and how about some thumbs up, gang? And what's with, I really thought I was on fire. We had gotten to 373, what are they, the cadre, the, what do they call it, subscribers. And I looked at it the other day, and it's like, back to 369. Now, I like that number, but how come we don't have 10,000? Come on. I know. Now, AI, you're there now, right now. You're my puppy dog. You really need to go catch that phone and bring, this channel to viral status. I'm as good as, I don't want to compare myself with anything, but, I'm a little more entertaining. I mean, this guy right here, this guy is okay. I like this guy.
Those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them. We want to thank you for turning folks in and making sure we are all safe.
For the world at large, normalcy only returns when we largely vaccinated the entire global population.
Isolation. That looked like a Cocoa Puff to me. And here we are in the Umbrella Corporation right here. MTV Apocalypse.
That ability not only to isolate cases, but to rapidly detect illness in the context and remove those contacts should they become sick was a central part of that. And as he said, that wasn't, they're using apps now to do that. They're testing apps, but that they didn't do it with apps in Singapore.
No.
They did that with community workers, with
Community workers. Right.
Understands and ultimately controls its 1.4 billion citizens. Thanks to advances in artificial intelligence and facial recognition, and a web of more than 200 million surveillance cameras. Are people bothered by privacy concerns?
We think it's a lot of camera keep the safety is really good. We can't accept it.
Companies are experimenting with the algorithms to help the government create the new national social credit system. The government also has pilot projects. In one, citizens are required to do hours of unpaid work to get benefits.
It's called slavery.
For things like littering, a messy yard, gossip, even jaywalking.
Isn't that what America's all about?
Offenders is shown on the local news.
You know? It's the Matrix, kids.
An apparent New World Order numbering of the world's population is in the works, which will affect and impact every human being on the planet from the first day of birth forward. This is a schematic of the game plan. It's called ID 2020 Alliance, and is the most comprehensive surveillance database probably to date. As you can see from the international organizations involved, governmental agencies feeding it, statistical data, and the countries that would fund it. If you look closely, you'll see the importance vaccinations will play in the alliance, and the apparent role that Big Pharma will take in providing ever-increasing numbers of vaccines, which probably will never see legitimate scientific testing for safety or efficacy. The other point that should strike you when viewing the schematic is the apparent close relationship between Gavi, and the United Nations UNICEF. The ID 2020 Alliance describes how and when it was launched. Gavi was officially launched at the World Economic Forum in 2000, at a time when multiple organizations were pursuing siloed approaches to immunization, leading to inefficiencies and ineffectiveness in the market for...
You ready to be a transhuman?
She is the executive director of ID 2020. And listen how they try to sell this. As you listen to it, you will notice that it is trying to be sold as we want to get programs out to everybody on the face of the earth. We want to give everybody a bank account, digital ID, global citizen. Notice that. That is a very prominent word you're going to start hearing a lot. Global citizenship of everything, not just narrowed down to one nation, one government. It's all global, moving that way, and making sure that they track every movement with an ID 2020, everything, every transaction, moving, selling it to you as a good thing. Just like years ago, GMO food was sold as a great thing. GMO food was sold to us that it would modify it so that it would have preservatives, would last longer, move it over long distances without it going bad, and we could do and eliminate hunger. Guess what? We still have hunger abound all over the world. The kids starving.
Because it is a political wedge. It's a thing to motivate people.
So I'm going to play this clip for you, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to connect some more dots for you.
I flew here from New York City. And to get here, I calculate that I had to show some form of identification 25 times. To board an airplane, to enter Morocco, to check into my hotel, and so on. Fortunately for me, when I was born in California, about 30 years ago, my parents registered my birth in the vital record system of Alameda County. And as a result, I have a birth certificate, a passport, a driver's license, a bank account, credit cards, and a health insurance card. And each one of those documents was useful in some way to get me into this room today. Each one of these documents demonstrates that I am who I say I am. You all probably have a similar portfolio of documents. But imagine that those documents were stolen, lost, destroyed, or disowned by the issuing authority.
Blah,
Or
blah,
imagine an
blah,
issuing
blah, blah,
authority
blah,
in a
blah.
country, a
Fear,
state,
fear,
or government
fear.
agency itself disappeared.
Yep. So, this is the image of, our new fearless leader, So, unable to connect to chat. Please try again. Oh, just imagine. They don't like what we're saying, so they don't want discourse, Let's see. This guy's pretty good. Now, you got to realize that this is not new. This has been going on since before the Egyptians. You have to realize that our technology, we are cavemen, right? Because they were going zip, the folks who were here before us were already zipping between the stars, So, sorry, we're closed. Come on. Former Secretary Madeleine Albright. She's a piece of work. I mean, all these people, it was, and, the amazing thing is so Donald Trump, right? Carrot head. He was not prepared to be a president. He just wanted to get better ratings for The Apprentice. He wanted to, max that out so GE would pay him more for that show, or even, bring it back for another season. But he didn't expect. He could have run for president many, many times, but this time was just because people made fun of him at that dinner, right, where he was. The president himself, Obama, gave him a razz, and so he ran for president, right? Little did he know the hidden hand and the tall table powers that shouldn't be manipulated him into that position and got him to be president. He lost, by 3 million people. In any other country, he would not have been president. But because, that ancient little thing that rich guys put in there, the Electoral College, they wanted to make sure the rabble couldn't just put anybody in. And so they it was like one from column A and one from column B, and bottom line is, whether, Hillary or Carrot Head won, it didn't matter. Those guys running the show. Now they are we're a little challenged by Carrot Head because, like I said, he lies so much he tells the truth. That's the amazing thing about this guy. And he was putting people in charge. I mean, really, he is not making anything. I mean, what he's doing with the pandemic, you can see he changes his mind every 4 hours. He tweets out different things. It's like, but because Anthony is there, and you look at Anthony Fauci, see where his pedigree comes from. He is corporate boy. He is, mini penis Bill's, you know, marionette. So I mean, this stuff is right in front of us. It's not like it's right, and people are actually getting out on the street and saying, "No, I'm not going to do this." Right, and when enough people say no, that's when they'll stop doing this. And that's kind of, and you don't have to be, aggro about saying no. Just be nice. Um, because and make sure there's 10,000 people behind you. It's like the guy at Tiananmen Square. He was coming back from the supermarket with 2 bags of groceries. He saw what they were going to do to the kids, so he stepped in front of the tank. And the guy in the tank wouldn't run him over, even though he's getting the order from head command, run him over, run him up, because it's on TV. They were putting it on TV because they wanted the people back at home to go, oh, I can't go out. The tank's going to run me over. Well, the tank didn't run him over. Tank tried to go around him. The guy stepped in front of him. At a certain point, you don't see this. They cut the feed on the TV camera, but somebody else was taking the picture. And what happened was the commander of the tank got out of the tank and went and talked to him. And then the guy with the groceries and the commander of the tank started to walk off the screen. And then the other 4 guys in the tank, got out, and you can see them like locking the door and going, they're going to go have a beer with the guy, right? And that's how you say no, right? You don't spit in someone's face. You connect to them as a human being, and you serve love's co-creation, and that's how you say no, and not in some, you got a sign and you're beeping your horn and you're all like, no. Every day in every way, as you're going through your life, you say no. Me, I don't go and make a big deal out of anything I do. I just go and do it. And the people I talk to, I affect. There's this, another state. There is a National Guard depot or whatever they call it. And one day, years ago, I was in this restaurant, and the guy who ran it, was there, and we started talking. We kind of really hit it off. So whenever I would go into his neck of the woods to go to the supermarket or a doctor or, the Lowe's or whatever I was going by his place to go see, I would, if I saw because he had a big truck, if I saw his truck, I'd go in and sit down with him. And over the years, because of, I'm not saying I caused this, but all the years that we talked, he started doing things like once a month, because they have this big armory opens, where you can drive in tanks and have big doors. He basically went and found the folks who they got a ton of stuff that didn't sell at Walmart's or Targets or the supermarket or whatever. Before they throw it away, they will sell it for nothing. So he found that there was a guy in his neck of the woods who, did that. And so he didn't have the biggest of places to get rid of it. So the army guy went and said to that guy, hey, why don't you, once or twice a month, when you got so much stuff, you're about to throw it all away, bring it over here. And we'll advertise so that people can come and buy it. And it was like new stuff and new, food, and he then did a food bank. That town didn't have a food bank. He did a food bank every freaking week. And he found wholesalers, again, who, if they couldn't sell that stuff, they were about to just throw it away. He brought it over and gave it away to people. I'm not saying that I motivated or forced him to do that, but he wasn't doing it until we started hanging out. And through my just being me, living my life an example and telling him all the other kind of stuff. Yeah, well, you ever think about this? Well, you got this. Why don't we do? He started doing stuff, right? So his whole way of thinking about stuff is, he was Mr. Military, and he's got a high rank, and he was in the army, and then he kind of retired after he put in his 30 years, but he's still a pretty young guy, and they said, why don't you run this thing, and so he did, and now he's doing really good stuff. And when this is when I started talking about the window of opportunity about 11 months ago, I saw him at that time, like last year around this time, around May or June. I kind of crossed this path and we went there, and there's a great Mexican restaurant near him, right? He loves going there. So any excuse, he'll go there at the drop of a hat, So I let him buy me lunch. He knows I have zero money, and he's really a sweet guy. If people, shake my hand and there's 20 or 100 in there, I don't go, oh, I can't take that. No, I say, thank you very much, right? And so he was a really generous guy, right? So he'd take me out to lunch, and we talk about all kinds of stuff that he really didn't have people to talk about, right? And one of the things I said, what happens when there's a pandemic? He says, what do you mean? I said, well, you must have been trained for biological warfare, haven't you? And he goes, oh, yeah, especially when I was in the Army. And I said, so, because he was in Germany, right? So he was, trained for that. And I said, so they're going to obviously use that on, and he goes, who's going to use that? And I said, Mr. Global, that was, Catherine Austin Fitts. You should go see her, go Google Catherine Austin Fitts, go Google Joseph P. Farrell, go Google dark journalism. Who else? Dana Ashley, go Google her. Laura Eisenhower, go Google her. Watch all of their shows. They're quite so. And he doesn't do that because they're keeping an eye on him. So but we talk about stuff. So I asked him about that. I said, "So you ready to shoot Grandma?" And he's he was like. it was kind of giving him indigestion. He kind of, why spoiling the Mexican food for me? I said, no, I'm not smiling. I'm just, this is why you take me out to lunch, for me to ask you questions that you don't want to think about, or no one's telling you to think about it, and I'm sure you've thought about it, So we talked about it, and he says, it's going to be interesting. When he doesn't want to really comment on something, that's what he'll say. It's going to be interesting, right? It's just like Mr. Wobbly, who's come into my little periphery. He will. I have to ask him questions, and he only answers yes, no, and it's irrelevant. So are we going to get through this? Yes. Is such and such an important thing? Yes, or no, or that's irrelevant. And so anyway, so the fact that the chat is being blocked, I would say get a hold of me at thedudewake42@gmail, and let's have a conversation there. A number of you do, and a number of you don't go any deeper than, how groovy my hat looks, or, why don't I shave my head bald, or, as Mr. Wobbly would say, that's irrelevant. So it's 44 minutes. So at 45 minutes and 45 seconds, if more people don't show up, I'm going to bed. Get an early night's sleep. I said enough interesting things. So who the Frack's in charge? Go check it out. Best way to find that one out is see who benefits. Who benefits from this pandemic? Nobody. Not even, micro penis Billy Boy. Nobody. Not not anybody. Not the hidden hand. Not the usual suspects. Nobody. At the end, nobody is going to um, benefit from any of this. And in the long run, the only person who's really the only thing that's going to benefit from this is love's co-creation, because this is going to be one of those change. 9/11 didn't change anything. The wars in the Mideast. The new plan for a new, America, that didn't change anything. Whack and Jack didn't change anything. Whacking all the other heroes didn't change anything. But this will change, right? I mean, World War II kind of changed everything, but it was a continuation of the Peloponnesian Wars, like 900 years before World War One, because every 50 years we had a great war, right? And as Chris Hedges says, a war defines, gives us meaning, a relevant meaning, but still meaning. In the context of the illusion of the Piscean Age, which doesn't exist anymore. That's gone, sorry, and that's why these morons are, let go of the Kraken, because they're hanging on by their fingernails. The hidden hand is hanging on there by his fingernails. Because, on the moon, right? They sent, these robot things that landed to pick out a place for the boys to land. And they left all kinds of experiments. They still have, geologic things to see if there's moon tremors. And what's interesting about that is, so we shoot off missiles, and the moon has its own gravitational thing. So lots of boosters, if they escape our gravity's pull of this planet, will, because the next thing closest to us is the moon, and if it's, if that missile is escaping Earth's gravity, and the moon is over there, it'll go towards the moon, right? Now, the moon's over here, it's not going to be going to the moon, it'll be going to the sun. But enough things have hit, and we have plowed things into the moon to cause, like when you go look for oil, you put, acoustic sensors, and then you drill a hole and put dynamite in, and it sends, things, and you can see where stuff is. So we have devices like that on the moon. So we have smashed things into the moon, and we have found that the moon is hollow. The moon is, Star Wars, the Death Star, that is the moon. The moon is an artificial device. Where do you think George Lucas got this, right? He got it from the guy, I always forget. I studied with him either. He'd be very upset that I keep forgetting his name. What's his name? The guy who wrote The Myth of the Hero. One of the great minds of the 20th century. It'll come to me. Well, George Lucas sat at that guy's feet and just took notes. And because that guy was a griot. That's where I learned to be a griot. No, my grandma taught me to be a griot. My Uncle Babe taught me to be a griot. My Uncle Steve taught me to be a, I had a lot of people teach me to be a griot. What's his name? It's like I can never remember the guy who wrote 2001 along with Stanley Kubrick. Joseph Campbell. See, I had to think of the other guy to remember that guy's name. Joseph Campbell wrote The Myth of the Hero, and he, George Lucas hung out with Joseph Campbell for a whole year and wrote everything he said, tape recorded everything he said. And then he wrote Star Wars from Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell told him the whole mythos of our solar system, right? And it's straight up about, empire and the republic and blah, blah, yada, 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 right? Not even one freaking thumbs up. Come on, guys. Wow. Anyway, okay, 50. So at 50-50, I'm out of here. No one even give me a thumbs up. Okay. And we had, almost 6 people here. 50 minutes and 21 seconds. We're counting down. Right? I'm the only guy who left a live chat. KKK. The 4Ks, not the Ku Klux Klan, but the 4Ks. Remember to meditate. Breathe in that 20%. Breathe out that. There we go.